Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the Galaxy S series phone and the Unpacked event that's coming up on January 17th. Today we're going to make some predictions based on the rumors that we got out there. We've got TechCrunch, Tech Radar, and Thomas Guide. These are where my main sources we're going to talk about today. I'll leave the links down below on those articles if you want to read them fully. Now let's get started. Most of you are already aware that Samsung every year comes out with their phones, their S series. And this year is no different. And they have three standard phones. Basically, they have their standard version, their plus version, and then their ultra. That's very similar to these other phones having their basic and then their plus, their pro. So their pro model would be the ultra. Now, as we get started, I want to give you a spoiler alert. Not a lot of changes to these devices. The big change is when it comes to AI, and we'll talk about that later in the video, so stick around. So let's just start off with basics. We'll talk about the price and the sizes. You got the S24, which that is the 6.1 inch model last year. They're predicting it might go to 6.2 this year. And of course, it's gonna have a base offering of 128 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. And that phone's gonna be around $799 and would be their entry model S24. Then if you want to bump up to the next size model, that would be the S24 Plus. It's predicted to be a 6.7 inch screen, same as last year. And it's going to start out with a 256 gigabytes of space and again, 8 gigabytes of RAM. But if you upgrade that one to a 512, you can get 12 gigabytes of RAM. So on the 24 Plus, you can get a little bit better performance by getting the larger storage of 512 and the 12 gigabytes of RAM. Now the S24 Plus is rumored to start out at $999 for the base model with 256 gigs. Then if you want to jump up to the larger storage, more RAM, it's an additional $120. Not too bad for what you get, but it is the larger phone. And then lastly in the lineup is the Ultra. The Ultra comes out at 6.8 inches and it starts with the 256 gig storage and it has the 8 gigs of RAM. So again, just like the Plus, if you want to upgrade to the 512 and beyond, you can get the 12 gigabytes of RAM. Now here's a really good thing on the displays. This display brightness is going to improve on all of them. It's going to go more than double on the standard models of 24. They're going from 1205 nits all the way up to 2500 nits on the S24 and S24 Plus. That's really awesome. And on the Ultra model, it's moving from 1750 nits up to the 2500 nits. So all three are getting the bright screen according to the rumors. I'm predicting there's still going to be a tier difference between the two. I'm not quite sure they're going to go ramp all the way up to the high nits on all three models. That'd be impressive if they do. So now, so far, the S24 Plus and the Ultra, there doesn't seem like a whole lot of difference. There's no separation there in these phones. Well, where the separation begins is with the cameras. So let's go ahead and talk about the cameras next. Now with the S24 and the S24 Plus, it's rather impressive what Samsung has done with these S series over the last couple years. They've actually included 3 cameras with these phones where all of its competitors only provide 2 cameras, such as the iPhone or even the Pixel. They only provide 2 cameras on their base models. But on the Samsung S series, they actually give you the 3. Start off with the main camera being 50 megapixels. That's right there with the competitors. And then you have the 12 megapixel ultra wide on both cameras. And then they both have a 10 megapixel 3x optical zoom lens. Now that's really nice to include that as well as the ultra wide, which is the only one you get on the competitors. Now moving on to the S24 Ultra cameras. Now this is pretty much the same as last year's 23. Has a 200 megapixel main camera, and then it has a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then the 50 megapixel zoom lens, which is kind of confusing, but stick with me. It has a 5x periscoping optical lens for its zoom lens. And it also has a 10x telephoto lens with 3x optical zoom. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but we'll explain that in another video. Now we know Samsung's going to do a lot of things this year on AI with their cameras and with their processing. We know this because they are trying to trademark some phrases such as Magic Pixel, Flex Magic, and Flex Magic Pixel. Now what they're going to do with these phrases, don't really know yet, but I'm sure we're going to see that in the next video. And it's probably what they're going to call their processing. Probably similar to like Google's Magic Erase and things like that. So I'll have to watch Samsung Unpacked see what they do with those terms. Now real quickly, there's not a lot of change in battery life on all these phones. The S24 is going to get a bump about 100 milliamp hours, going from 3,900 to 4,000. And then the Plus, it's going to go from 4,800 milliamps to 5,000 milliamps, which puts it right there in the same ballpark as the Ultra, maintaining its 500 milliamp battery this year. Now let's talk about the big part of the story, which would be the chips. Now we know that the Snapdragon Gen 3 is out. Now there are some rumors that in Europe, they're going to get the Samsung Exynos chip, the 2400, instead of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. We'll have to see how that works out, because last time they did that was with the S22 model, and then last year they gave them all the Snapdragon chip across the board with the S23, and they sold more units last year than any previous year. So not quite sure why they're going back, but we'll just have to see how that turns out. Now for you folks that are wondering, I haven't really got a lot of information on if the AI is going to be any difference between the two, but we know that the Snapdragon is a faster processor, so it's going to be able to accomplish things a little bit faster. And in the past, we know it's been more energy efficient. So if you want the best of the best, I believe you still have to go for the Snapdragon 3rd Gen. Now we know the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is going to have a power boost with an AI engine that's going to really make that thing process images a lot faster. Very similar to what we've been seeing with the Pixel 8. And with that in mind, there rumors are that the S24 series is going to be able to process those faster with the 8 Gen 3 chip. That we'll still have to see, and we're going to have to test. Now, according to TechCrunch, Samsung has unveiled their new AI assistant that will be a alternative to ChatGPT, and it's called Samsung Gauss. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Gauss. But this is supposedly coming out in the S24 series. So I'm hoping this new engine will be a little more current as opposed to ChatGPT being 2 years behind on its information base. So I'm looking forward to see how the Samsung Gauss works out, especially on these S24s. Will it be better than the Pixel 8 or the Pixel 8 Pro? Will it process faster? You know, the Pixel 8 Pro, a lot of things goes up to the web to process and change things. So it's not quite on board as promised. And I'm hoping over time that'll change. So some of the things we're expecting this chip to be able to do is generative edits, where it can actually make edits on your photos right there on the phone. And then they're expected to have this feature called Zoom Any Place, where you're able to zoom up anywhere in the photo. And you can see that on their examples that they're showing on their preview site of this young gal zooming and pinching things and making them larger within a video. Now that's pretty impressive if that's actually the case. Whereas we know on the Pixel 8, you can only do that on a photo right now. Can you imagine being able to do that within a video? That'll be awesome. And then there's another rumored feature called Magic Focus, where you can focus in on certain parts of a photo and adjust the depth of field, which is something you can actually do on the Pixel 8 right now, but this may be a step above that. So I'm excited to see that one as well. So now you can tell it's going to be exciting to see if the S24 tops the Pixel 8 and all its AI features. On paper, it sounds like it's going to, but we're going to have to wait and see that demo, and I'm excited to test this out here in the near future. Now it's time for you to tell me what are some of the things that you hope to see in the next S24 series. What are you thinking they're going to do? How do you feel about the kind of stagnant changes in the hardware and just them focusing on software? Or is there a whole nother device that you're looking forward to this year? Please let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about it. This is going to be an exciting new year, and AI is going to be in the forefront, but I'm hoping it doesn't kill all the new technology and upgrades that we're hoping for this coming year. If you like what you saw, enjoyed the content of this video, please let me know down in the comments. Leave me a like. I appreciate it, and it helps out the channel. And while you're down there, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Let's grow this channel so I can do a whole lot more for you. Thank you for hanging with me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and God bless.